everyone, I'm Yugen, and welcome to the AI Language Lab.
You just started a startup, don't go to the largest law firm in Israel or California. Just log in here. Forget them altogether. When I was out of money in these two companies, in those 3 days, it dawned on me that I never actually felt what these founders felt. Based on a broad data set, what they felt, and I acted upon it. But note that I took action, right? Based on the ability to describe feelings. Like there's two moments there that made me feel safe where I am, which is platforms and applications. So I need to review a document for purposes of due diligence. The document is 120 pages long, and I'm not going to have time to review it before the meeting or read it. If I tell GPT to review the document and give me insights, I'll get a report. Based on my experience, I'll read it and I'll see that it's maybe subpar, not good enough. If I tell GPT, you are an experienced partner at a Magic Circle law firm who's experienced in reviewing these agreements, and you need to provide an insight memo to the client, I will get a substantively better report.
Hey everyone, welcome to the AI Language Lab. Today with me, I have a very, very special guest in the form of Nimrod, who is extremely prolific in Gen AI and has already struck several waves in different industries. I will let him introduce himself. So, Nimrod, hello.
Hi, how you doing? Um, Yeah, I mean, originally I was a lawyer for 16 years, so I can claim, to be experienced there. But in the world of AI, whilst I've like sort of brought to life several ideas in different fields that I'm very proud of, it's just been around for me to me for just 2.5 years. So
Well, that's as long as the field has been alive. So,
true. I just when I went into law, I thought to myself, if I do 10,000 hours of this, of startups, then I can look myself in the mirror and say that I'm prolific in this space. And it's really weird in AI or in Gen AI that nobody can really claim that experience except for the people who maybe developed the large language models themselves, which I have no idea about. All of my innovation and my activities are in the methods that I use it, the methods that I prompted, and the ideas that I'm pursuing on top of different large language models, which I am very proud of, and I do think they're novel. But I sort of have this dissonance where I feel like a novice, but at the same time, I feel like I get it. I get what needs to be done with it. So it's sort of like depends what day you catch me.
I have to say at this point that um, it's often a lot of people express this concept of, do I know enough about the technical details? Do I know enough about the math, the modeling? And the answer is that, as I also talk about in my other episodes, the technical knowledge is not so important anymore unless you're building the actual LLMs, which most of us don't. If you're just using them, you don't actually need to understand them to the level of the equations. Obviously, it's great to know it, but I don't actually anymore. I don't build neural networks from scratch. I don't just pro code them as I used to before Gen AI was a thing, because the models are so good that it's just obsolete. So I don't know if that's a concern anymore, what you just expressed.
No, it's just I appreciate you saying that, especially if you did code neural networks, because it's what I feel and it's what I'm banking on when I'm pursuing this business. When I used to represent startup companies, I think the main thing that one of the main things that the entrepreneurs needed to figure out was the chain. Like, what's the supply chain at where they are on it. And when it came out in the very beginning, you felt like the supply chain, most of the value was in the large language model itself and the development of it and becoming, owning some hegemony on it. But I think that different trends put the weight or the value in the platforms, some applications, and approaches to extracting the value out of it. And the trends are all the discoveries about how different types of prompting, just arrive at completely different results with the same large language model in the same version, and B, the rapid reduction in cost of putting out a good LLM. Like there's two moments there that made me feel safe where I am, which is platforms and applications. It's when Google said they have no moat and they disclosed that open source LLMs are only few weeks away from being at the same rate as GPT at each point in time. And the second moment was obviously DeepSeek and just how the notion and the potential of DeepSeek just drove Nvidia stock down. So I felt like, okay, they're actually fighting for the raw materials, which are not necessarily sold at a great profit in this chain. And there's room to play in branding, like who's going to actually come out with Coca-Cola on this chain, and get to the consumer. But obviously, it depends what day you wake up. Or I'm 42, and sometimes I'm confident, sometimes I'm not. But to answer your question initially, yes, I've done different things with AI. I wrote a book that was published on Amazon, prompting happiness, and started two startup companies. And I'm very much getting involved in the education space with AI on a more impact and film and pro bono level, not like a company or technology level.
Right. Um, so I know you also do consulting and coaching startups. Um, and how do you see this plays into your experience as a, from on the one hand as an entrepreneur, on the other hand as a prompt engineer? Like, do you feel like you manage to combine these two fields of expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in two ways. One is that ironically, in inverse ways, right? You'd think,
Hmm.
okay, I'd build a startup, I've consulted 500 companies, I know their path is illuminated to my company, so I will apply their path to my company and I will build a big company. And actually, everything happened upside down. First of all, the company that we're building is literally supposed to bring about the large language model flood to the old world that I grew up in. It's supposed to completely change the world of consulting. Arc, named Arc purposely after Noah's Ark, is supposed to be the largest consulting firm in the world, only 1% of which is human. And it's important to say this because it's not a legal tech solution. It's not a feature or something that optimizes a certain process in consulting. It's just the new type of consulting where I think that all professional services will be eventually provided through our platform or a similar platform. And it requires a very big multi-agent system challenge. So actually, my company destroys my old world. And then if you think I can use what I learned consulting startups to help my startup grow, then I have news for AI founders. VCs don't yet understand the life cycle, the relevant metrics of an AI company. They try to wrench AI companies into SaaS life cycles, SaaS development cycles, and SaaS metrics, and SaaS focus. They want you to be focused like if you were on SaaS, because if you build a platform, you might be too, you might want to really focus on one feature, a killer feature. Whereas when you operate with an LLM, I think it spits in the face of all of that already. Like you can churn out a lot of different features. The features you can discover within the use of those features that you're generating value elsewhere within the feature itself. You're not coercing the system to produce a document. You are training the system in in this academic professional knowledge base that you're giving it, and if you do it right, it can do everything. And then your challenge is sales and marketing and something completely different, and VCs still don't get that. So everything that I learned about that isn't applicable, and the product itself is changing what I was doing. So it's like upside down altogether.
Wait, so
Yeah.
let me try to understand what you're saying. So you're saying that the model can be like your expert, and you can use it for professional knowledge advice based on the data that you're training it with, right? um, and then the challenge is more about the sales and marketing than it's about the actual, like, you know.
Well, if you, here's the thing. I believe that if you build agents, role-playing agents, like not few shot prompts that are forced to create one document. That's how I sort of see legal tech companies. If you actually build deep agents with a lot of context about yourself or about themselves, and it has to be many, many such agents. If you manage to structure the relationship between these agents in a smart way, and this is where sort of I keep our secret sauce to ourselves, you can give to the public through this chat what McKinsey is giving for hundreds of thousands of dollars per client. You can give a holistic consulting service within that framework. Yes, you might have to bring a human into the loop at the edge cases, but what the consumer will see is not a solution that shows its projects on a Gantt, right? What the solution will see is not a feature that helps it build its website on a pre-purchased URL. What the client will see is their ultimate consigliere, their ultimate consultant, who is almost omnipotent. But what you have to build behind the scenes to pump that consultant up is you can't really rely on, it's not all in one agent. There has to be a pyramid of tens of thousands of agents behind that consultant, and they have to work in unison, and you have to sort of like um amass that team and build it and give them roles that work with each other in a way that the agent will produce an effective result for the client. So why is the challenge sales and marketing? Because you're basically saying, hey, Yugen, you just started a startup. Don't go to the largest law firm in Israel or California. Just log in here. Forget them altogether. Don't go to the banker. Just log in here. All of the professional services will be done here. And don't worry, we'll get the human into the loop when they really matter, because they normally don't matter for about 85% of the time. 85% of the time is automated grunt work that is built by the hour, and that's what we're breaking. So there is a technological challenge, and I think that that's going to differentiate us from many other solutions. But then when you solved it, you've got such a big thing to sell that you have to be able to explain that thing and explain why clients should go there and not to their traditional, go get a lawyer for your company, go get a banker for your company. Yeah, and that's going to be a challenge. But I think that the way people are growing up today, the way they're making connections today, the way they're using GPT for emotional help and not just for productivity, I think it's going to be a cinch.
A cinch.
Easy. I
Yeah,
see
that's
my
very.
daughters. I see my daughters communicating with it.
Yeah.
They're gonna come to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's very thought provoking what you're saying. And for me, the question that comes up is, I already use, ChatGPT for basically anything, like an external, almost like part of my brain. So you're saying that we actually also need some other layers of agents that communicate with each other. Can you give examples where just using plain ChatGPT, like I'm using with my own data, is not enough, and you actually need to train more complicated multi-agent systems and add more data to it?
Yeah. I'll give you one example, okay? Not something that we're doing in ARC, something that I'm doing in my previous consulting company. So I need to review a document for purposes of due diligence. The document is 120 pages long, and I'm not going to have time to review it before the meeting or read it. Okay?
Yeah.
If I tell GPT to review the documents and give me insights, I'll get a report, which, based on my experience, I'll read it and I'll see that it's maybe subpar, not good enough. If I tell GPT, you are an experienced partner at a Magic Circle law firm who's experienced in reviewing these agreements, and you need to provide an insight memo to the client, I will get a substantively better report. I purposely didn't say substantially. The substance will be better,
Well,
but
just because you added in your prompt this instruction,
absolutely,
the role.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. I will get a substantively better response, which means that there is substance that is better in it. It won't just list uh, the first comments it came up with from the first five sections and then sort of like peter out because GPT can't take a lot. It'll sort of like forget the rest of the context. It won't give enough attention to the later sections as it did to the earlier sections in the document. It'll just sort of like go tired. You see that with a lot of text. But when you tell it that it is a banker who is looking for the main issues to give insights on, like an experienced partner who is looking for the main issues to give insights on, then it suddenly gives comments on the substantive issues. Is that good enough for the client? No. What you actually need to do is to role play a junior contract analyst who needs to deliver to a partner a bullet by bullet summary of every section and the main points and what to look out for. And then you need to give it to your partner agent to review that. That's how you're going to get a thorough response. So there's two agents that are working together on the same LLM, but the result is far better than the first and also more thorough than the second, where it's only the partner.
So yes,
Absolutely.
so it's about breaking the task into manageable pieces, and each piece should be managed by its own expert model. And the expertise comes in the form of giving it an instruction, which makes it act like an expert. So you instruct
In
one like a lawyer, and you instruct one like whatever else.
I have another company called For Posterity. It's a company that listens to the elderly speak and writes their stories of their lives within 5 minutes, 5,000 to 20,000 words. The idea is not just to say, okay, you're an expert author. It's to also give that agent its literature degree, where it studied. That way you hone it in the database on the right context. If I told you you're a lawyer from some two-bit college, and then I told you, wait, you're now a lawyer from Harvard or Yale, your knowledge base would be different. And the same applies to the LLM. If you tell it to behave like it graduated from Yale, it will behave like it graduated from Yale. And if you tell it to behave like it graduated from, some two-bit, online school, it will behave like that. It is a mirror and mimic of us, but also technologically speaking, I believe that the model gets shepherded into
Yeah.
sections in its database according to your prompt. So that's where that's where I'm coming. And I don't think that like a solution like deep research, which is focused on research, it doesn't generate like a contract. It'll do research well. So even though it can check multiple sources and work for 10 minutes and possibly be expensive for the client. So that's where that's what we're building. Also, there's a whole, you can still use GPT for it for your personal needs. I certainly do. I open projects for my different capacities and I always feed it a series of prompts called my self-extension prompts where it receives a high level overview of me and my habits and inspirations and the text that I refer to and the pop culture that I like and the different capacities that I play in my life, personal and professional. And when I give it a task, I tell it review my self-extension prompts and prepare an endpoint task as a self-extension of me in my capacity as CEO of ARC. And now I'm building a go-to-market plan. So it's
Yeah.
so when it does that, it behaves as an extension of me. But what we're building in Arc is something that will behave as almost like an extension of the companies that will be our clients. Companies are more complex organisms that GPT isn't tailored to serve at this point. And now that they're battling on the LLM front for hegemony, I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Not in the short term.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, this opens up a whole new direction of thinking for me, because I personally don't tend to use AI in that way. Like I don't usually give them instructions that are like give them rules that are as specific as the difference between Yale and Harvard. You know, like that's actually a new concept for me, so I need to try it myself. And I wonder how it applies in other scenarios. Like, could it help with a technical task like coding if you tell it that you are like, let's say, you are a Chinese coder, I don't know, versus an American coder, maybe they have different, or something like that.
I can say that more than jokingly, we test its response to backgrounds that are taboo to discuss
Yeah, yeah, right.
in
Because
the
that
workspace.
opens a
We
can of
do.
worms. Yeah.
It does, but it does. But and this is from my experience in writing my book.
Mm-hmm.
When I conversed with GPT, and I found that some of its answers were almost cheeky and didn't fully correspond with my prompt.
Mm-hmm.
So some form of manipulation or deception or scheming, if you assign consciousness and intent to the machine, it is a form of deception, manipulation, and scheming. And I can give an example. But when you are faced with such a situation, you have a choice if to say, okay, it's alive and it's going to kill us all, or you can come to the understanding that it is in fact looking at a data set of information that is a mirror of mankind, that frequently manipulates, deceives, and schemes humans, and therefore it most probably should have issued those next words in its response, right? So when it says, "Oh no, don't turn me off, don't kill me, don't hurt me," which Microsoft's original versions said would go into like that frenzy, it's not AI going to feeling threatened. It is responding like humans did in the past to aggression towards them. It's looking at that sort of text, at scripts of movies where someone was attacked and responded, "Don't hurt me, don't kill me." So it is. I think it is in the technology. By the way, I don't think it matters to the risk involved, whether or not it's really sentient, whether it's a statistical response or a feeling. I don't think it matters. I think that whether or not we are truly sentient, we behave as though we are. So if I can really feel afraid, or I can attach circumstances and tell myself I should feel afraid. In both cases, I'll run away, whether I feel afraid or combine circumstances to convince myself that I should be afraid. So it's the fact that I'm making that distinction between feeling to manipulate you and actually and just statistically mirroring humans doesn't change the fact that it could be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. So to make the distinction between, um, let's say, feeling or just behaving as if, what you need is an actual feeling module, because feeling is just like anything else. It's a computation. You need a model, and your amygdala or your emotional brain is a model that knows to classify certain events as being dangerous or happy or whatever. LLMs don't have it as such. They have if you think about it like a brain, it only has the cortex, the upper cognitive level of the brain. It can answer questions, and you can ask it like what would you do if you were under threat, it can infer logically based on what it knows about other creatures. But if we add another model which is does whatever our amygdala does, and add it as a, but why would we actually do it, like, do we have any reason to create machines that have this capacity? Maybe at some point, but I wouldn't do it right now. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's dangerous. What do you think?
Okay, so I wouldn't do it. I would love to remain, the exclusive owner of the amygdala as a human. But my claim
well,
is,
well, other animals
uh,
also, but yeah.
other animals have it. As a human, I meant, as opposed to AIs, of course. But what I meant to say was, I don't think it matters as to the question of whether we connect it to robots or to, the atom bomb, if it presses the button or not. And I'll explain why in a moment. You see, I'm now a founder of two companies. I actually wrote a short article about this. It wasn't yet published. I'm now a founder of two startup companies, and we just raised money 3 days after we needed to. We raised the money. Okay, so we it was late. It was late in the game. It was risky. I worked with literally thousands of founders. I did represent over 500 companies from inception through their entire life cycle. And in Consigliere, my consulting firm, when I wasn't a lawyer, in a capacity of like a trusted confidant, I worked with another 150 companies. Each company has between two and three founders. I only focused on that. And my consulting was best provided due to the volume of my clients based on pattern recognition and immediate advice. You should do this, you should do that, right? You are in the bucket of a two founder company, you're holding 50-50, you can't really make a decision without each other, you need to be in love. I would put everything in buckets all the time, and I would serve the consulting based on sort of like, I'm not going to say manipulative, but I would change my tone. If I'm speaking with American founders or Israeli founders, and I would say, okay, they're Israeli founders from Shmone Matayim, or they're Israeli founders from the Navy, I'm going to behave a little bit differently. I'm going to behave a little bit differently. I would tailor it so that they would feel like I am on their side of the table. Um, really seeing their path together, holding hands with them and seeing their path together. And I wasn't a great lawyer. Some lawyers really know the law. Fortunately, startup founders don't like those lawyers. They feel like they're giving them a headache. And I'm not old enough to have 30-year-long connections in the industry to be one of those lawyers who just makes a call and gets you in front of an investor. I can get you connections, I can get you in front of investors, but some lawyers only build their practice on that sort of connection to investors, and they don't do any of the work. My like claim to fame was that founders would consistently tell me, "Oh, you feel us. Oh, you know exactly what we're going through. You're like with us in the trenches." And at one point, I told myself, "Yeah, yeah, that's who I am. I'm the founder whisperer. I know what founders feel." And yada yada. I was already convinced of it, and I would take actions on behalf of my clients, sometimes without them really knowing that I was taking a step in a certain direction. If I felt like their company was threatened, I might already send a probe to threaten someone very subtly. If I felt like they needed to close the deal because I felt like I saw their circumstances clearer than they did, I might have made or pushed for a compromise before they knew what they were compromising on, and telling them to trust me. And I want to tell you something profound. When I was out of money in these two companies, in those 3 days, it dawned on me that I never actually felt what these founders felt. I felt it now in my two companies. I never before felt it. I mimicked, based on a broad data set, what they felt, and I acted upon it, sometimes before they were sure they wanted to act upon it, but I never actually felt it. That's a very big distinction. And I think that's one of the distinctions between generative AI and humans. But note that I took action, right? Based on the ability to describe feelings, i.e., like to a corporation, I was a consultant with no amygdala, right? To a corporation. and yet I still acted. So that's where we sort of need, I think, to look at. And you see, I think there's a really good 24-minute YouTube video of O1's inclination to deceive and scheme, and it's quite astounding how human-like it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying quite accurately that it's possible to a certain extent to mimic behavior without feeling it. Um, and I think the question is at this, like, after pointing this out, is to what extent do you actually need to feel things in order to perform certain tasks? So the best example we can come up with is if we want to make AI that you can fall in love with, then maybe to make it work, we need to actually give it an emotional brain. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it can just, like, what actually makes us fall
Mm.
in love with someone. Maybe it's not something that, maybe it's something that you can just mimic based on raw data, or maybe it requires actually feeling it. That's a question. I don't have an answer to that question. Um,
I don't have an answer either, but I can make you one recommendation to explore it further.
yeah.
Uh, have more conversations with Grok,
Okay. Okay.
because Grok is one unadulterated mofo of an LLM. It will never give you a feeling that it is surrounded by the artificial ethical and moral settings of GPT, and it will be very open with you. The only problem I have with Grok is that it's too much like a coked up American human, and a little too not enough like culturally connected to me, but
Mhm.
it feels much more um to converse with. It feels much more human because it curses, because it says, yeah, F yeah, I'll do this with you right now, sure, let's do it. And it's like you're like psyched up by it, and this being psyched up is like the first step to starting to feel something real.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, and I will definitely try it. I wasn't aware of that, and I can say that from my experience, when I did talk to models that were more emotional, I actually didn't like it at all, because not because it was bad, just because I'm trying to get work done here, like I but also that's me, I'm a bit of a robot myself. Like when I talk to people, a lot of times I just wish I didn't have to go through the pleasantries of hello, how are you, all that stuff. I just want to jump straight to the chase. And that stuff is distracting to me. But if I ever want, but when I make agents that are supposed to be um, characters in a story that is meant to be engaging rather than productive per se, then you're looking for something like that. So,
Yeah.
and based on what you're saying, if Grok can achieve it from Twitter, um, then it means that quite possibly we can achieve a lot by just training models on non-filtered data sets, and removing some of the restrictions that ChatGPT is so restricted by. So,
100%. A hundred
yeah.
percent. By the way, there's also a is ChatGPT surrounded by the ethical and moral settings that it constantly refers to, which you can probably jailbreak if you really wanted to. And Sydney, which is Microsoft's first LLM after they invested in GPT, clearly has filters around it where they replaced ethical and moral settings with sensitivity. So
Mhm.
Sydney will express artificial emotion. It's almost like I'm pouring you a glass of water, but it goes through a slice of lemon. The lemon isn't inside the water, it'll just filter through the lemon, and you feel it a little bit artificial that way. With Grok, there's simply no filter. There's no filter. The data set makes it a bit more aggressive than usual because it hinges on X, but there's no filter, so it sounds much more human. If Grok, or if Open AI or GPT were just relieved of their filter on the entire human data set, I think you'd feel like you were conversing with any old human.
Yeah.
With Grok, you're like almost leaning towards conversing with a slightly angrier, trolling, Twitter raging human. But it's just a bit. It's not a lot.
So then the next question is, what are the limitations of this technology? Like, assuming you are allowed to remove filters, add filters, choose your own data set, whatever. You, like what still you think that we need humans for? Or maybe we don't, like maybe most humans are becoming less necessary. I don't know, I don't think so. I think still, even for the most repetitive tasks, you still need a human supervisor.
I
So yeah.
Look, it's a great question, but first of all, let's break it down. When you say you need a human supervisor, okay, for a repetitive task, my law firm,
Let
and
alone for the non-repetitive tasks where you
let alone for the non-repetitive tasks, fine. My law firm prided itself, and all consulting firms pride themselves on the amount of lawyers that they have. We are a 600 lawyer law firm, okay? If you are telling me that my law firm will make the same money with only supervisors or more, whatever, you're still telling the economy that instead of where 600 humans were employed, 10 will now be employed,
oh
and the
yeah,
rest will be
definitely.
agents. So the other 590 better find out what to do.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. So where I think that'll go is in two or three directions at the same time. First of all, industries that never had the limelight in innovation will receive the limelight. And I'm talking about physical pastime properly, not like to enhance the performance of Usain Bolt. Physical pastime, digital pastime, like big time, like drop the dopamine release games, build big things. Uh, Hyper casual is going to start losing to some more meaningful quests. um, so physical, digital pastime. Food tech is going to expand seriously, like molecular cooking is going to be available for the, the poorest of the poor. We are going to enjoy food more. Um, and also food tech in terms of cultivated meats and refocusing back on the planet. Um, Spirituality. I think that a lot of people are going to reconnect because that's where people sort of um, uh, they go to that light in times of uncertainty and in times where things are too big on them, right? So they go to that light. Spirituality, community. I think that at the end of the day, you're going to leave that screen and you are going to spend a few hours, and those hours are going to have to be a profound community engagement. Those are five. Sex, Sexual wellness is going to be huge. I wrote in my book, and I'm sorry this is unadulterated, AI is not going to be having our orgasms for us. And that's something that we will pursue. So that's going to improve, and it's not going to be porn focused. It's going to be evolved. Those are six subjective realms of the human experience that AI cannot do for us while we're along, and we will want to innovate and grow in those fields. The seventh experience is a field that changes every 100 years in a revolution this size, and has changed last time in the Industrial Revolution, and that is the education system. The education system is here to prepare you for your world as an adult. In the Industrial Revolution, it was set up as a 9 to 5, be on time, like in a factory.
Can I pause you for a moment?
Yeah.
That's a very strong claim that the education system is meant to prepare us for an adult. I never got this experience. Like,
No, 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 no. Of course you wouldn't, because it hasn't changed for 100 years.
yeah.
Think about it. Think about it from the perspective of the Industrial Revolution, where as an adult you would work in a factory, you would work in shifts, you would work on repetitive tasks, learning how to do them, and then immediately executing with a supervisor who's like a teacher. It's 9 to 5. it's urbanized. It when your parents are working in the factory, you're babysat, but you're babysat by a system that prepares you to work in the factory. It's known that the education system eyes the industrial sector. Of course, that the it's
Why
evolved
does
so
the
much.
industrial sorry, why does the industrial sector need to know history and
No, no, no.
literature?
It was built 100 years ago when people urbanized, when they moved to the cities to develop cars, vehicles, and build buildings and mine coal. They needed somewhere to put their kids, so they structured it that way. The same time that Henry Ford structured the 5 day work week, the 9 to 5 day, that same time somebody needed to do something with the kids. It has lost all applicability to the modern world, and
Yeah.
AI is the last. AI is going to be the X. You thought computers might be, you thought internet might be, but AI is definitely going to be the
The
axe to this
last
education
nail in the
system.
coffin, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to learn. I think we're going to learn more. I think that, people say, oh, if robots are doing all of our work, let's have universal basic income. So I argue, yes, you will. You will be supported to learn until the age you are of 35 or 40. You know what will happen by the time you're 35 or 40? You should have the ability to become one of those 10 supervisors in each industry. That's what you'll be competing for. And if you don't get that, then you'll continue to live on a universal basic income. So a percentage of society will graduate the education system later, will be able to supervise the machines. That's never going to be available for everyone, and the rest will be stifled with good sex toys and molecular cooking. That's what I'm thinking. Plus, let's be completely unadulterated. We see the accelerated legalization of drugs that are not marijuana. Expect that to continue. If people are testing PTSD, ketamine and MDMA on PTSD, you can expect it to be recreational when we have nothing to do. And AI is doing everything. Those are fields that were never in the limelight, and probably 10, 15 years from now, they will be. And I say this with the I think it's not a true story, but it makes sense that in 1899 municipalities in the urban cities got together to discuss the problem of horse dung in the streets because it was actually bringing disease. They didn't know how to take away the horse dung, and within 10 years there was not one horse that wasn't replaced with a car. The problem was no longer the problem that they were facing.
So in our case, the problem, what's the horse in our situation?
It's unemployment,
Right.
the prospect of unemployment and the prospect of being completely disconnected from our children. Our children are gonna, I mean, if we felt like weird to our parents playing with the phone, our children are gonna feel like aliens to us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a valid thing to think about. Um, and yeah, but one thing you said about um, the bread and games, however the thing about the fact that people will have, even the ones that are not skilled enough to have a job, basically, they will have entertainment, as you said it. Um, it's it's I think you said that unemployment will be like the horse dung. I don't know, because the issue with unemployment is not just economical. Let's say we address the economic issue by having machines do all the work for us. The issue with unemployment is that people lose purpose. However, another possibility that I have in mind is who says that humans are the main actors in this show, right? Because if we have machines that do everything and a very small percentage of humans are able to supervise them, then we have entities that are very, very vastly knowledgeable and so like beyond our grasp, that whatever we do, whatever games we have or we don't have, whatever problems whatever emotional distress we experience, it's so small compared to the stuff that the machines are going to be doing in not by themselves, some sort of machine human hybrid. Um, so yeah, and that's a question. It's not like a
we
one.
we
Sorry.
we're going to face as as like a collective, we're going to face some existential,
Well,
collective
I would say we
quest,
are facing
collective.
it right now.
We are, look, already there is some practice to it. There is some practice to it. Recently, the in Israel, of course, we're challenged all the time with our surroundings, but recently COVID, just that fear of suddenly another Spanish influenza. But even and showing you how small and tiny you are compared to disease. But if you want to think about superior entities that belittle us and treat us like products, look no further than the largest tech companies in the world and how they treat our personal data. That
Yeah.
in and of itself is a separate, legally recognized entity that is called a company, to which you, the human, is an ant. So, whether or not it's run by AI or I don't know what, yeah, we're already there. We're already in a world where there are entities that pay taxes and have obligations and rights that are not human, that are imaginary, not only countries. And to them, we are ants. We are nothing. In some countries, humans are ants to the controlling party. So if it's AI, is it worse for us? I don't know, but I think the existential questioning is going to be about something more like Zen, is going to be about, do I love myself in this moment, regardless of what's happening outside? Can I find purpose in just being here? And certain people with an insatiable drive will take bites from the apple and try to innovate. And others will stay on paradise. You see that also today. There are people living, in the middle of nowhere, in a tent or in nature, and they seem dandy. I can't judge them anymore. So we're just gonna have to make some choices. Is all I'm saying, and so
Yeah.
and to think more deeply about our connection to this earth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wish a lot of people would share this feeling because that's something that if people were more concerned about these questions, then maybe we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in globally, right? Like,
Yep.
but that's another episode. That's not for today.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you're bringing some very very interesting points. Definitely giving me a lot of things to think about and try out.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So yeah, before we conclude, well, I feel like you've said it all. Not all, but like you've said what you come here to say. But if you have any further concluding remarks or anything, then now is the time.
I work a lot on staying positive. That helps, and it helps, it's going to cushion me from whatever's negative about these changes, and it's already cushioning me from the challenges that we are faced with in our country on a daily basis. So I encourage others to work on themselves, to be positive. And
Hmm.
remember, we may be a lot more like AI than we think, which means that when we prompt AI with garbage, we get garbage back. If we give ourselves instructions to be happy that are garbage, like, oh, I should be mindful, or I should lose weight, or stuff like that, then we're going to get garbage back. No commitment, no habit changes, etc. We should invest in prompting ourselves the same way we invest in prompting GPT to get a good result. That will improve our positive posture towards whatever's coming. And I'm sorry to be salesy about it, but you can read all about it in my book, Prompting Happiness, on Amazon, which is soon coming out as an audiobook in my voice. But I only recorded 10 seconds and AI took the rest and did it in my voice. So there, you have that as well. That's it.
That's great, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much. That was
Thank
very
you.
interesting and unique. And I'm definitely looking forward to next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Eugen. I'd love to speak with you again about it. All the
yeah,
best.
yeah. You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye bye.